My name is Seshasai, and I'm going to be a moderator for today's session. Now, our topic for today's podcast is building your next role muscles in your current role, a conversation on how to future proof your career by stretching your strengths right where you are. Now, joining me, ladies and gentlemen, are two seasoned experts from the HR and talent management space, and each one of them bringing over 2 decades of rich experience. Now, let's get to know them a little better before we dive into this powerful discussion. Our first guest is Ms. Ruby Khan. Ruby, thank you very much for being with us here.
Thank you.
Now,
Thank you so much, Vishal.
Now, Ruby holds a PhD, who holds a PhD, is an accomplished HR leader with 18 plus years of experience in culture, learning, talent management, and diversity and inclusion. Now, as the head of culture, learning, talent, and DEI at Luminous Part Technologies, she combines deep research insights with practical business expertise to drive impactful initiatives. Ruby has designed award-winning leadership programs and pioneered inclusive strategies. She is recognized as one of the top 50 women in D&I space by the Vedika Alliance. She's also featured in Business World HR 40 Under 40 and has been named as HR Young HR Leader of the Year by Economic Times. Her passion is building future-ready organizations by unlocking people potential and creating high-impact programs. Outside of work, Ruby enjoys writing, reading, and curating engaging learning content. Thank you once again, Ruby. We look forward to have an insightful conversation with you. A warm welcome
Thank
once
you so
again.
much. That was all mine. Thank you. Thank you.
Now, our next speaker, Abhishek Joshi. Abhishek, thank you very much for being with us here today in this podcast. Now, Abhishek is the founder of Strengths Masters and a Gallup certified strengths coach with an illustrious and experience in illustrious career and experience in learning and talent management. He has been instrumental in establishing strengths-based development and transformation practice in numerous organizations, ranging from large-scale companies to growth stage organizations. Now, Abhishek, once again, a warm welcome to you.
Thank you, Sai. Thanks a lot. Good evening, Ruby. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Now, let's move forward. Let's bring in our guests now and hear their take on what it truly means to lead with purpose, presence, and authenticity in today's world. Now that we have heard about the incredible journeys, I really can't wait to tap into the insights. Let's you know, dive right in and explore how we can start flexing those next role muscles today. With the first question coming your way, Ruby and Abhishek, which is a common question, so anyone can take that. Let's begin with your perspectives. What does building your next role muscles in your current role mean to you personally and professionally? So, Ruby and Abhishek, between you, any one of you, can take this.
Ruby, please.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you. So, if I have to reflect and I have to think of my next role and build a muscle, I think I should be a good combination of curiosity and mastery,
Right.
where I build depth in whatever I'm doing, but at the same time, I'm curious to know a larger perspective of business, function, and organization. That's one. Also, someone who's looking at building muscle for the next role, it is very important that you're a fine balance between perform and transform, Seshasai. Um, Many a
Great.
times, because we are in a role and our intent is to give the best to that particular role, we get very myopic to here and now, and eventually the expectation of a CEO or the board is that this person has to contribute and be a part of an initiative in the organization, which can also transform and create that pivot in the organization. And therefore, an individual who wants to build the next muscle should have an inclination towards transforming, looking at future, a bigger picture, a larger picture, and that will bring that balance of doing the current job well and at the same time looking at the career path which is in line in next 1 or 2 years.
Perfect. So thanks, Ruby. So
Fantastic.
my
I guess that's a great insight. Yeah.
yes, yeah, Sai, thanks a lot. So I'll thank you, Ruby. Thanks for sharing your perspective. So my take on this question, Sai, what does building your next role muscle in your current role mean to me personally as well as professionally? So first of all, how am I looking my role in my current organization? What is my view towards my current role? So is it a transactional view, or do I
Hmm.
understand? how I am solving problem in my current role. So let's say it starts with the way I view myself, my self image about what my I am doing. So let's say if I have
Right.
a very clear self image, then how I am intentionally stretching myself beyond my current responsibility. Volunteering for
Hmm.
cross-functional projects, solving
Yeah.
problem outside scope, mentoring others, right? So it's like how then I am leveraging my curiosity in the direction that I just don't see myself as a transaction
Yeah.
in the entire process. I see that okay how I'm adding value, solving problems to multiple stakeholders. So as I understand more and more problems in the organization, because I look at my role as a problem solver and hired by the organization to solve specific problem, not like a support function or a mainstream function. It means so that's how I look at with this understanding, building my next role muscles in my current role. So that's my view, sign.
Fantastic insights, Ruby and Abhishek. And Ruby, especially, I love the way you brought in two very interesting elements. One is the curiosity and the mastery part, and I really the second part where those two rhyming words, perform and transform. I guess that is one of the need of the hour. To you're performing in your current role, but then you're actually trying to transform yourself to the next role. And Abhishek, and that's where Abhishek, your point also, to make a shift from being transactional to transformational. I guess that is required a kind of a self-assessment whether we're really prepared for the to take up the challenge of the next role or not. Fantastic. So let's move forward, Abhishek. This question is to you, Abhishek. How can professionals use their Gallup Clifton strengths to unlock new responsibilities or position themselves for future roles?
So a couple of ways, Sai. So one is when you understand yourself from the lenses of strength, you get a very authentic roadmap about who you are and how you want to apply yourself. So many times we say, okay, be yourself. But to be yourself, you have to know yourself. To know yourself, the easiest and simplest data point that is available about you is your top five strengths. And that's how you start understanding yourself. So it gives you a very authentic roadmap. So when individuals or organizations, when they start leaning into their strengths, uh, I mean, and individuals, especially since you are talking about, individuals, how individuals can build their next role muscles in the current role. So they start using them more intentionally. So, for example, let's say if someone has a strength called strategic, those individuals will be can look at more opportunities in their current role to offer insights. Let's say in a planning session, someone who has a strength called responsibility, who takes psychological ownership of doing things, will have complete clarity that okay, I stretching for work or participating in new project is not something that I'm not doing anything. Like Ruby, you look at Ruby, she does so many things in her life in addition to the professional role that she plays in her organization. If you look at about so just picking up example from Ruby's career journey. So when you have clear understanding about yourself, you enjoy applying yourself in various dimensions of life. You don't feel stretched or under any kind of burden. So you understand your authentic roadmap, and then you apply yourself really really well for new responsibility, and it makes you kind of prepares you for future roles.
Great, great, Abhishek. Yeah. Okay. Now, let's move on. Ruby, this question is to you. As an HR
Yeah.
leader, what qualities do you notice in people who tend to grow internally and take on bigger roles?
Aspirational, um, ambitious. So while you're ambitious, I think it is very important to articulate that ambition. Many a times, leaders are ambitious, but they do not articulate it in as many words as required. And therefore, a lot of times, people around them don't realize that they're ambitious, they're aspirational, and also higher level of resilience and tenacity. Because Seshasai, once you decide to grow internally and take up different roles, you need to prove yourself in different roles, and you have to
Correct.
establish credibility. So every time
Absolutely.
you're taking a risk, but at the same time, you're also trusting the ecosystem and the people and the culture and the organization that the bet that have been taken is the right one, considering your potential and your strengths. That's one. Second, I think people like who really build up internally are very good with networking.
Right.
Very good at networking. So they are not only known in their respective function, they are known across the organization. Their visibility as a leader is very high.
Right.
Yeah.
So I feel that to precisely answer your question, aspiration, ambition, articulation of ambition, a lot of tenacity, um, resilience of not giving up. Uh, Also, how do you network and navigate relationships is becomes very
Right.
important. How do you establish credibility becomes very important. So I feel that these are a few things that I have seen senior leaders having a conversation around.
Fantastic. I mean, yeah, that Ruby, that brings me to a very critical aspect, and thanks, for bringing that up. You said, tenacity and resilience, whilst it's
Yeah,
there, it's very important. Okay, aspirational and ambition is, ambitious is what you said. But what actually appealed me is the credibility part, which, and
yeah,
especially this point, the point that you brought up actually becomes all the more relevant, which makes succession planning all the more a very crucial element,
yeah,
because you,
yeah.
you see ingrown leaders who've risen up the hierarchy, and then are actually beginning to take up the higher roles. For them, credibility is like, and credibility is a function of character and competence. Okay,
Right.
so
Hmm.
whilst building networking within the organization, that's there, of course, because the ecosystem is such that yes, they get ample opportunities to build to build internal network, to voice out their opinions. That's one. But then, in terms of displaying the character and competence, that also, these two becomes a very crucial elements for them, for actually the concerned stakeholders to observe them, and then figure out that yes, these are the ones who are ready to take up the challenges for the next role. So fantastic
Right.
points. Abhishek, anything that you would like to add here?
No, Saik, I completely agree. So therefore, so the qualities that I notice in people who tend to grow internally are how they take initiatives, how authentic they are in terms of their own understanding, and how they are applying themselves in day-to-day basis. That's something I'd like to just add if I a little bit. Yeah.
Fantastic. So let's move on. So that brings up, brings us to the next question, which is again common to, common for both you and for Rui, for both you and Abhishek. Anyone can take that. Now, according to you, what mindset shifts are essential for someone who wants to grow without necessarily switching jobs or getting a title change right away?
So, Ruby, would you like
Okay.
to take this?
Yeah, you want me to go first? I'm okay, Abhishek. Whatever
Yeah, yeah,
you.
absolutely, Ruby. Yeah.
I think very strong learning agility, Sister Shai. One, if the person really wants to grow, this person will stop looking at designations.
Hmm.
See, what are you making out of your professional life? Are you making a job or are you making a career? And if you are making a career, you will get into vertical
Hmm.
movements, you will take up roles which you have not taken. So I very strongly believe that one of the mindset shifts
Hmm.
that, and I'm a very strong believer of this book of Ramcharan called Leadership Pipeline,
Hmm.
that every time a leader
Yeah.
moves to up in the ladder, there's a continuous work that this person is doing on mindset, skill set, and time allocation
Right.
or application. And that is where
Correct.
I feel that someone has to have a very strong learning agility, irrespective of whether this person is moving outside the function or within the function. Someone who has the skill, because as you grow up in the pyramid, what is also important is to change the mindset from being a very functional technical expert to more people and conceptual skills. I mean, we all know here that the moment you get into a leadership role, the first question is, does this person think strategically, which is an
Yeah.
overused word. Are we saying, does this person think long term? Does this person has an outside in view? Does this person is able to give solutions to a problem which are sustainable? So
Right.
I feel
Hmm.
that learning agility is very important. um, a mindset of continuous skilling, learning, of course tenacity is very important. While people take bet on you, you should also trust that, because that's a huge risk we are taking. And someone who is growing will not look at designations, will look at the experience that this person is getting throughout the career.
Right. Absolutely.
Correct.
Absolutely.
Correct. Yeah. So, that's you brought up a very interesting point, because, while you were giving your perspective, Ruby, I was wondering that, yes, you didn't use the word learning orientation, because we often use the word learning orientation, but rather you said learning agility, that how quickly can you
Yeah.
learn, okay? Not just learning, but yes, because it's all about velocity, in which direction do you want to head towards. I guess the learning agility, because any which ways we like, adaptability and agility are the two, agility are the two competencies which are required in today's, especially in today's dynamic business environment. And when
Right.
learning becomes, becomes a prefix, learning agility, so it adds more to the plus, of course, clubbed with your strategic thinking, and and how quickly are you able to adapt, and get attuned to uh, the ever-changing business dynamics. Fair enough. That's a great point, Ruby. I'm really enjoying this conversation. Okay, now that brings us to the next question, Abhishek. This is to you.
Sure.
Can you share an example, Abhishek, where someone applied a strength-based approach and it accelerated their growth within their current organization?
Yes, I absolutely. So there are so many examples that I have. So I'd like to give an example of a middle-level leader in an organization. So when we started working with this individual, we realized that one of the strengths is relator. So what does relator mean? So if you look at in strength science, there are two strengths: relator and woo, WOO woo. So relator is all about depth of relationship, and woo is exactly opposite of relator, which is like width of relationship. So people who have relators, they are not introvert, they are selectively extroverts. So what they do, they build deep relationship with people. But the limitation is that not many people know about them because they don't have this feeling. They don't have this intent of reaching out to everyone, talking to everyone. So now, while this individual reached up to middle level leaders leadership role, after that, beyond that, it was becoming a challenge for him because he was not naturally expanding himself, and he was not someone who would go and start networking because people who have related, they it is very difficult for them to do ice breaking. So when we started working with this individual, we found that this is a limitation. We call it basement of strength. So he was in the basement of strength. So what we did then, we said, okay, you will always enjoy doing something which is very very objective oriented. So for example, let's say if you have to interact with people, it is important for you to expand yourself within the organization, but you will always find initiatives which are objective orientation. So for example, that person would not enjoy going out in a party, but let's say if there is a CSR initiative taken by the organization, that is where there is an objective attached. The person will automatically volunteer. Similarly, mentoring people is something which will come, which would have been very helpful for that individual to expand within the organization. So this individual, based on understanding of strengths and basement and balcony, opted for mentoring. He started voluntarily mentoring people. So, for example, let's say he reached out to HR team and said that, okay, I would like to mentor people from other departments to whom I do not regularly interact with. Maybe I'd like to share my experience with them, and maybe give insight about my function, my department, and also certain aspects which I can mentor them around. So if you look at this shift, helped him quite a lot, and it increased this individual's visibility within the organization without changing the natural approach of networking with people. Otherwise, this person got feedback from everyone every year. One feedback used to be that you are not visible, and the person also had intention to make himself visible. But the challenge was, how do I do it? What is my natural way in which I can network with people? I am uncomfortable going out with everybody, going out in meetings, going out and networking without very clear agenda. So after understanding strength later, this person understood and found his own way of expanding himself, and then that helped him in growing in the organization. So that's a real life example, sign using a strength and how can somebody expand.
Great example, Abhishek, because uh, the previous question when Ruby actually brought in elements like visibility, and the person should exhibit an authentic voice to be able to take up the challenge for the next role, and this is where you beautifully brought in the concept of strengths. Okay, that means we are trying to create an ecosystem, or you're trying to create a situation wherein these guys, especially I really like the term basement when you said, so that I suppose is the darker side of the strength.
Yeah,
This
Sai.
is
So
for the benefit of
basement
our
is like,
audience.
so basement means you have a strength, but your strength is becoming an impediment for you. you are using it in a way that it is becoming an impediment for you. So the mindset shift that this individual did after learning and applying himself correctly, that I will go. So earlier this person used to feel that I will grow when I get promoted. Now the mindset shift was, I'll grow so I get promoted. So if you look at this shift happened in
Great,
the
great.
individuals.
So, which means knowing each other's strengths is definitely a blessing in disguise, because then in that case, you start accepting the person the way they are, and then
Yeah.
at least you're able to create those situations, and since your self-awareness levels and awareness of others actually goes exponentially, it grows. So, that gives us ample opportunities to create such spaces wherein, I really like the word selective extroverts. I heard about selective listening, but I never came across this word selective extroverts. So somebody who's a selective extrovert, how do you create this, build those opportunities so that this person can actually utilize or leverage, the basement, or rather coming out from the basement and going on to the brighter side. Yeah. So thank you, sir. Thank you very much, Abhishek, for those wonderful insights. Okay. Now let's move on and to the next question. Ruby, this is to you. Uh, how can managers actively support talent mobility and help their team members prepare for the next?
Well, this is something that I have experienced, firsthand as a talent lead in the organization. They should stop hoarding talent. I think as a manager, the belief that this person gets 70% of my business in the team
Hmm.
Mm,
is a misnomer. It doesn't exist, right? So, the ability of a manager to let go of talent is very, very critical. And these days, we are so sucked up with this entire thing of hoarding my top talent,
Right.
right?
mm,
And I think once you stop holding the top talent, you will start opening up to an opportunity of people across the organization who can fit into different roles. So that is where mobility, that is where fungibility of talent will happen. And I'll tell you where am I coming from. So we had a situation where we had multiple sales function, and from one function there was this person who was very much who had that potential of moving to another role, in the sales in another sales function. At the same time, it was the same level role, and that is where we had a conversation. We spoke to the manager. We brought both the managers together. The manager of the incumbent to bring that conviction that listen, it's very important for this person to let go, because later on what you realize is the person who's getting 70% of your business either loses the interest of doing the same mundane thing that this person is doing, or eventually you will start realizing that this person is not adding value,
Hmm.
yeah,
which
yeah.
is a little ridiculous, because then because you have not given an opportunity to this person to move out. So holding talent is something that is a mindset that managers need to change. There's a very interesting article in HBR which says make a talent factory. So there are a lot of organizations, Seshasai, who take a lot of pride in saying that we build talent and other people in the industry pick those talent. So
Mm,
I
yeah.
think managers should have that mindset that listen, the leaders who are across the organization, maximum are from my team. I think that's the mindset which is very important.
Yeah. Yeah.
Correct,
Yeah.
correct.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, talent mobility. I really like the word when you said talent hoarding, because, when you were speaking, I was just visualizing the bell curve. Now, one question is coming to my mind, Ruby, is that, if you imagine a bell curve, because the top talent is to the extreme right, okay, and if you keep
Yeah,
hoarding talent there, and if there are no further growth opportunities for them, so either it will become mundane for them, or probably they'll lose that interesting motivation. So what's in
Right.
yeah,
it for me next? I've done it. Okay, I've
right,
been there, I've done it, and I've come out of that with flying colors. I've
right.
achieved. In fact, I've superseded all the expectations. But then, but what else are they expecting from me? So
Hmm.
this is what is going to happen. Somebody else in the market is going to pick them up at a
Yeah,
higher package, and then
yeah,
later on you regret. I guess to avoid getting into this kind of situation,
yeah.
if the concerned stakeholders, they start deliberating on this much in advance, that let's not create circumstances which may give rise to this such kind of a situation, and we are stuck. Okay,
Yeah.
and then we keep on. So let's the talent mobility, rather than hoarding talent,
Yes.
if much in advance, if you start anticipating situations and keep like rotating or maybe placing somewhere, wherein these guys are also motivated and they don't leave the organization. Great points. I think fantastic. No, those were some wonderful insights, Abhishek and
Yeah,
Ruby.
if managers
Thank
can start applying this
you
thing,
so much.
your organization will really, really grow
Okay,
well.
now that brings us to the next question, which is common to you people. Yeah. Okay. So, what's your take on the balance between doing your job well versus preparing for your next job, and how can one do both without burnout?
Okay. You want me to go first?
Yes, yes, Ruby, absolutely.
I'll go back to Abhishek's response to the first or to the common question. Now, this is action. So, this is where you will continue doing what you're doing, but at the same time, you will take up a stretched assignment,
Mm.
you will take a secondment, you will have a mentor who equally speaks about you other than your manager on the table, uh, or you have shadowing.
Right,
Right. So the reason why you need to do this is because you are building a muscle for the next role. And until unless you don't do a stretch assignment which allows you to use your, as mentioned, strengths or potential, you won't be able to know how much can you stretch. And
right,
stretch aside, I won't
Mm,
say without a burnout, because it is difficult. When you're doing your job and you're
yeah,
taking up
yeah,
something else, uh, you will get into a situation where you will experience fatigue, but that's a
yes,
choice that you make because you want to take up a role. Your aspiration is something else. As I mentioned, you're ambitious and you articulate that ambitious ambition very, very clearly. Therefore,
right,
I feel that it is very, very important that you start acting on your development plan,
right,
in any of the forms which suits you well.
right, right.
mm.
Absolutely.
Yes, yeah. That's a very valid point, Ruby, because I've come across many colleagues in professional stint who work with some major IT firms, and these guys are very very happy, and they have absolutely no desire to actually move to the next role. Now, when I ask them why, of course, the reason is that every year we keep getting this much increment. I'm pretty happy, though they have the
Right,
potential. Okay, probably I guess this is where the point just you mentioned. It is a choice. It's my personal choice that yes, whether even though I have been a good performer, I have the potential, and my stakeholders have observed me as one of the potential candidates to be promoted to the next level.
Yeah.
But unless and until I'm mentally prepared, I'm doing my current job very well. I guess this is where people have started anticipating that yes, if I take up the next role, it'll have its own pros and cons. Okay. Now,
right,
Right.
pros definitely this one hand. Cons is like, why should I take the added pressure? And I
Yeah.
completely agree with you when you said without burnout. Burnout, I think that is something which is easier said than done. Burnout will be there. It's like a, it's like when we talk about time management matrix, there are urgent things and there are important things. We can never eliminate urgent things. That's the verb, that's the whirlwind as per Mr. Ramcharan. That's the whirlwind which will exist no matter how much we are able to manage our time and decision making and so on and so forth. It's going to be there. So I think yes, I totally agree, resonate with you, when you said doing your current job well and preparing to your next job is a choice that we need to first make within ourselves. Okay, whether we're mentally prepared for that or not, and then we start working on our own development plan. It's only
also,
then.
sir, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, Abhishek,
Yeah, so
please
also,
speak.
sir, if you look at, I look at, so for example, let's say, let me give you an example which is not of the business context. So let's say, let's look at athletes. Let us look at top
Yeah,
performing athletes. So you prepare for, so, and most of the athletes are individual contributors, and they come back every year, so they fall, they rise, they fall, they rise again. So, so how do you balance, burnout in that case? You lose badly this year, next year you have to again start the competition from zero. So a lot
correct.
of it starts from what is your role? Do you have role clarity about your current role? Once you have
Mm,
that and you are completely there with complete clarity in that role. If you look at, Gallup has a diagnostic tool called Q12, and a lot of organizations score very low on in question number one. And question number one is, what is your role? Are you aware about your role? So,
mm,
so the current role, the clarity in current role makes a lot of difference in how you prepare for your next job.
next role.
So many times, people
Yeah.
are not very clear about why they are doing what they are doing in their current role. And I'm not talking about job
Mm,
descriptions, what they have to achieve quarterly and all that. It's very clear. I often suggest a very simple exercise to a lot of manager. I say, okay, you call your team member. take a piece of paper and you write on a piece of paper what you expect from this individual, and then ask that individual to write on a piece of paper that what do you think you expect, your manager expects from you. And if you will find many times gaps here, and then you will talk to your team members, say that this picture does not have big picture about, does not think big and all that. The point is that the clarity in the current role often leads to not having clarity in the current role often leads to burnouts, and then people don't think of preparing for the next job also. So once you make uh, very very clear about what is your role and how will you do apply yourself in your current role, preparation for next job can be done very clearly, and it will not it will have lesser moments of burnout. So that's
Wonderful, wonderful point, Abhishek. I think job clarity is the building block to actually prepare yourself for the next role. In fact, I while you were speaking, I was thinking of, like, metaphorically, we often say that you should be able to see beyond the visible. Okay, now whilst job description is visible, but job clarity is something which may not be visible, and you should be able to discuss the undiscussable with your reporting manager, that okay, what is the bigger picture which I'm not able to see. And that is where effective conversation and communication should also come into picture. It's only then a person will get a complete picture and a job clarity. Fantastic, great points, Ruby and Abhishek. Thank you so much for so far the conversation has been absolutely wonderful, phenomenal. Okay, now let's move on. Ruby, this question is to you. What role does HR play in creating visibility and opportunities for people who are ready but often go unnoticed?
See, HR, I personally feel HR plays a role of an enabler and a facilitator. Uh, Eventually, it is the incumbent who owns the career, but at the same time, if there is a potential and that potential has been identified, we enable that through a very structured development journey,
Hmm.
right? So if the person needs help in navigation, in knowing what is it that can be done, who is the right mentor, who is the right coach, what kind of projects, but that is in partnership with the role holder and the manager. And therefore I say that we play a role of an enabler or a facilitator, because we are the people who create those uh, pathways for the person who wants to make it. Also, Seshasai, this is tricky because at times this person is also very comfortable. Not every time you find a driven person.
Yeah,
You will also
yeah.
find people who are comfortable. In fact, I have known people who at a mid level who have told that, good doing this, yeah. Unnecessarily,
Hmm.
I'll go up in the ladder and the stress will go and the stakes will go
Absolutely.
up and
Yeah,
everything.
yeah.
So I think we are also the reason why I'm saying we are enabler and facilitator, because we also plug in the aspiration of the
Hmm.
incumbent along with the alignment of the manager.
Correct.
You know, you can't push somebody just to do something because you have seen it as a potential and all of that.
right.
Yeah, yeah. Abhishek, your take on that? If you would like to
No,
add
no, I
something
think
to what you said.
I think absolutely. So many times, people are comfortable and they have. I mean, every individual has a career aspiration. So
Yeah,
when we
yeah.
do career planning, succession planning, promotion, career roadmap, uh, one thing which has to be which is very central of this entire exercise is individual's career aspiration, and aligning that individual's career aspiration uh, with the manager's viewpoint. As long as that happens, it will solve a lot of problem. And there are people who have very all of us have different kind of career aspirations, right? So it's perfectly fine uh, to align with people's career aspiration and then plan uh, their career journeys. Yeah, absolutely, I completely agree with this point.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Because as somebody rightly said that yes, we need to have the mediocres also in the within the organization to keep the ship afloat. Okay,
Right.
because and there are many who would like to play it safe. I mean, why do I want to why do I want to take an added pressure on myself, knowing very well that yes, a higher role will come with its own set of pressures. I wish there was an equation which could measure the aspiration value, because I guess throughout this podcast, through the conversation, this one word aspiration has been coming up, every now and then, which is a variable in this entire scheme of things of flexing your muscles to prepare yourself for the next role. I guess that is the central point which has clearly come up. Okay, great. Now, moving on, Abhishek, this question is to you. N- We just have 10 minutes. Okay. So we can take up another I guess two more questions. Yeah. So Abhishek, how can people identify blind spots or limiting patterns in their current role that might be blocking their growth?
So there are a number of ways to do this. Simple is taking feedback. But let's say if I have to suggest people how can they do it without relying on any prescription, how can they do it on their own? Is the simple answer is looking at themselves and understanding them from the point of view of what their top five strengths are. So it will automatically give an answer that where are those areas where people. So I'll give you. Let me give you an example. So let's say there is an individual who has a strength called analytical. Now, people
Mhm.
who are analytical often have a lot of doubt about their own abilities, their own decisions, and all, because they analyze and they can endlessly analyze. But when they look at it from the lenses of strength, they start realizing that this is a blind spot for them. And what happens, since they have analytical as a strength, if anyone who can take risk in life, it is people who have analytical as their strength, because they are very intuitive, they are very observant, usually also in life. And if they take risk, if they take decisions, if they take initiatives, they will be the ones who will be able to correct it if something goes wrong much before other people have realized. So this is a very
Right.
simple way of identifying blind spots without relying on any outside prescription, and being very certain about it. And that makes them also very confident about their vulnerabilities. So that's we call it becoming confidently vulnerable about your blind spots, and working on them with clear mindset. So that's the way one can look at it. In addition to taking feedback, people who do not have access to top five strengths definitely can seek feedback and take views from others about. There are in organization there are a number of mechanisms to tell people about what their blind spots are, and that's the way people can identify.
Confident vulnerability. Ruben would like to add anything to that? Confident vulnerability. That's a very interesting term, Abhishek, you used. So maybe
Yeah,
your
but
take, quick
yeah, but
thoughts.
I just feel that authenticity and vulnerability goes hand in hand. So if you're
Okay.
authentic, vulnerability is bound to be demonstrated.
Fantastic, fantastic. So authenticity and vulnerability they go in tandem. Okay, great, fantastic. Okay, now that brings us to the last question, which is common to you again, to you both. If each of you could give one piece of career advice to someone aiming to level up, starting today, what would that be?
Ruby.
Okay. I have very simple ABC formula. A is stay authentic. B is believe in yourself, because if you don't, nobody else is going to believe in you. C, credibility. Credibility comes through building trust, being confident, and navigating relationship. I think that's very important. Instead of, a lot of times people say there's a lot of politics, there's that. I think you should be smart enough to navigate and not get into it. Keep doing your work. Don't run after visibility, run after credibility. I think that's very important.
Great, great. ABC model. So I hope this is a very a unique message, a very interesting message to all the. I mean, though don't believe in this, like Gen X and Gen Y and all, but still, I think that's a wonderful message. ABC, being authentic and being believe in yourself and credibility. And yeah, Abhishek, quick thoughts from you.
Absolutely, science. So, see, I'll tell you something very interesting about what's happening in our environment. If you look at, a lot of people say that it is very difficult to become successful in this era, but I say that it is very easy to become successful in this era. Why? Because if you look at, there are so many distractions. So people
Yeah.
who can be focused about anything, they will be really successful. And to do that, you'll have to remove distractions around you. The best way to remove distraction around you is to know yourself, you know and then
Hmm.
speak your value, about who you are, and act yourself in the way it comes naturally to you. So if anyone can do that, remove distractions as much as it is possible and stay focused based on what you really like. I mean, things can be really easy. Things can become really easy. See, being successful and being not successful is pretty subjective, right? Different people can define success very differently. But uh, it will bring a lot of happiness, joy, and fulfillment in whatever you are doing, and that will keep you going even in a bad day. So that's something which I would like to share. If I, yeah. So,
You brought in a great spin, actually, because when you said that many people feel that in the current era, it's very difficult to actually sustain and survive. But then this is where you can actually succeed to eliminate distractions. Now, this reminds me a book which is Good to Great from Jim Collins, in which he clearly says that if you're able to identify that one X factor, that one thing which you're good at, what is that one thing that you are good at? Okay, if you're able to identify that, because often, more than often, it happens that uh, years and years pass by, but we are still not able to figure out, okay, what are we good at? We feel that yes, we're good at multiple things. Okay, we are adept at multitasking, but that's not the case. Okay, but the moment you're able to figure this out, that yes, this is one thing wherein I'm good at, and then look for opportunities that, okay, this is the field, this is where I think I'm great. Okay, I'm already great, and I can add a lot of value, which is, Abhishek, you said, eliminate distractions and self-awareness levels, and Ruby, adequately complement with your ABC model, being authentic, believe in yourself, and credibility. I guess all this put together, that will definitely automatically give the career aspirants, the pathway gets created themselves automatically. So fantastic! Thank you so much, Abhishek and Ruby, for this wonderful conversation, and really, really, I thoroughly enjoyed, and I'm sure our audience would have equally. There'll be a lot of takeaways for our audience from this wonderful conversation. Okay, and thank you once again, Ruby and Abhishek, for such rich and
Thank
practical
you.
insights. Yeah, Abhishek, thank you so much. And
thank you.
Thank
yeah, so today's conversation actually reminded us that growth doesn't always require a new title. Okay, sometimes it starts with just a new mindset. By leaning into our strengths, staying curious, and being intentional, we can shape our future from right where we are. Okay, so there is no, as they say that you can start anywhere and go everywhere. So it's better late than never. Okay, so you can start from this very moment, the way we are. And a big thank you to our live audience for tuning in and bringing your energy to this session. So until next time, keep building those next role muscles. Keep flexing your next role muscles, both physically and mentally. And please, and lead with purpose. Thank you so much. It was an
you.
absolute pleasure, Ruby and Abhishek, for having you in this
Thank you.
podcast.
Pleasure is all mine. Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you.
Abhishek.
Thank you
Thank you,
so much.
Ruby.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Satyajit.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks a
Thank
you.
you.
lot.
Thank
Bye.
you.